Welcome to Pensar Basketball Live. We got two big subjects on the docket for today. And the first one is, should the Toronto Raptors trade for Jabari Smith Jr., a player who is, by all accounts, struggling immensely to hang on in the NBA, a player who's struggling to score, a player who's struggling to shoot, a player who at times has struggled to look competent defensively, even though that's really what he was billed as when he was coming out of Auburn. I mean, this is a player whose stock is in the dumps right now. So we're going to definitely take a look at that. The second topic, which is actually going to be the first topic we're going to discuss first, is Toronto's obsession with Kyle Lowry's archetype. So basically, short kings, undersized guards under 6'1", the Fred VanVleets and the Kyle Lowrys of the world. What does it take to be successful in the NBA? And do any of Toronto's current prospects actually have that build? And can they make it work? Currently the Raptors employ Kennedy Chandler in the 905. To those of you who've been watching 905 games, I'm sure you've seen a lot of Kennedy Chandler, but I'm not sure how much you know about Kennedy Chandler or how obsessively you've watched the drafts or the AAU ranks, but Kennedy Chandler was a pretty big deal. And so we're going to talk about that. Okay. Please hit the like on your way in. I'd appreciate it. This is not going to be a super long stream. Initially, we had thought about reacting to Darko Rajakovic's comments today during the media scrum and Mask Scotty. If we have some time, maybe we can do that, but that's not going to be the highlight of today's video. Today's video is going to be a trade machine video, especially looking at what it would take for the Raptors to trade for Jabari Smith, why they would do it, and the short king thing. The short king thing. All right, that rhymes. All right. The Toronto Raptors have clearly identified a type. Last year, they brought in Marquis Nowell from Kansas State. Really good player, really good collegiate player, really skilled. But really at 5'6", 5'7", when you saw him on an NBA court, you were like, this is going to take some imagination. Now, of course, players 5'5", Earl Boykins, 5'3", Muggsy Bogues. The Raptors have had small guards. TJ Ford, Damon Stoudemire, 5'10", 5'10", Kyle Lowry. You would argue that the Raptors have employed more franchise players who were under 6'1" than probably any franchise ever. And so it's an underdog story. It's kind of interesting when you're 5'10", 5'11", you can see somebody your size dominating the league. Maybe that makes things more interesting. Maybe that's why shorter players tend to be more marketable. But there are certain things that you are required to do if you are a guard in the NBA, and more so an undersized guard, even more so. And all of these things that you're supposed to do, and frankly have been asked to do through all of time, are just further exacerbated by the fact that the league is going bigger. How do I know this? Well, look at the last 3 drafts and find all the 6-foot guards who've been drafted in the first round. I dare you. In fact, I looked at the mock draft today for the 2025 draft, and there is not a single player under 6'1" on that mock draft. If there is, I think there's one in the second round currently mocked 55th. Teams are not investing in these players. These players will fall through the cracks. And if you're the Toronto Raptors, it's a smart gamble to look to potentially recoup some value. The Memphis Grizzlies have also thought this way. The Memphis Grizzlies were the team that, of course, drafted Kennedy Chandler, the aforementioned Kennedy Chandler. The aforementioned Kennedy Chandler, who, by the way, was a 5-star recruit in high school, ranked above Scoot Henderson, top point guard in his class. Kennedy Chandler was a really big deal in high school, and he was from Tennessee. And so it made sense for the Memphis Grizzlies to take a chance on him. And when they signed him to a 4-year guaranteed rookie deal, which was unprecedented at the time for a 38th overall pick, it turned a lot of eyebrows because he was a local hero. He was a really big deal. But they cut him loose within a year. And then he spent last year, toiling in the G League, I think with the Long Island Nets, the Brooklyn Nets affiliate. And this year he finds himself in the Raptors 905. And watching him has been interesting because you see no path at all towards him becoming an NBA player. Why? Well, there are a lot of things that NBA guards need to be able to do. But I'm going to stress that if you're under 6'1", these don't become unless you're Trae Young, unless you're Chris Paul. And frankly, even if you are Chris Paul, unless you're Trae Young or Damian Lillard, these things are non-negotiables. You must be able to shoot from at least 28 feet. You've got to be a threat to score everywhere. The second thing is you need to have that midi package, floater package. You got to be a threat. Like it's going to be hard for you to score at the rim, especially with the league going so much bigger, positional size everywhere. Wings are getting bigger. Bigs are, more agile. It's hard. It's hard, when Muggsy Bogues or Earl Boykins were coming off a screen and beating a big, they weren't beating bigs like Chet Holmgren and Jaren Jackson and Bam Adebayo. That's difficult. It's really difficult to do when the big that you're trying to beat has a speed advantage on you and a size advantage on you. It's easier to do it against Rasha Nesterovic. Respect to Rasha Nesterovic, but he ain't no Chet Holmgren. So you got to have that threat to score. You got to be a table setter. You got to be someone who can organize the offense. You got to be a pure point guard, which means you got to be relatively mistake free. You can't be super turnover prone. You can't be the type of player that is constantly turning over the ball, or having ugly misses, or running a stagnant offense. You can't be that type of player. You got to defend. Now you got to defend like to the best of your ability, right? Which means you got to fight. You got to fight on every screen. You got to fight. You got to pick up 94 feet. You got to try to defend at the rim, even though you really can't. Physically, you shouldn't be able to. And if you've ever played basketball against someone who's 7 inches taller than you, oh, the deck is so stacked against you. Shit. If you've played basketball against someone who's got 20 pounds, 3 inches, and even knows what they're doing, you realize how hard it is to stop that player in the post. So it is difficult for smaller players. You got to be strong. Like, you got to be really strong. Like, you got to be one of the strongest players in the league. Y'all remember Earl Boykins? Y'all remember Nate Robinson? Yeah, those guys were like some of the strongest players in the league for their size ever. Super strong. If you're not super strong, like a TJ Ford, if you're not built like that, it's just I guess it's the physics of muscles padding your bony, body. You're gonna break down. So you got to be super strong. You got to be really strong. You got to be built like Fred VanVleet. You got to have the farmer arms. So you got to be active defensively. You got to be effective defensively, at least as effective as you can be at that size. You got to fight. You got to be drama free. Oh Lord, you must be drama free. There can be no ego to you. There can be none of that stuff. It helps if you have a wingspan that compensates for some of your size. We saw this with Dennis Schroeder, right? Dennis Schroeder 6'1", but has about a 6'7", 6'8" wingspan. See this with Emmanuel Quickley. Emmanuel Quickley is, some people misconstrue him as like 6 feet. He's 6'3". Emmanuel Quickley 6'3". I've seen him. He's pretty big, 6'3", with about a 6'8.5" wingspan. Okay, but it helps. It helps. Like, if you're Donovan Mitchell, who is 6'1" generously, but has like a 6'10" wingspan, yeah, it's going to help a lot. It's going to help with your finishes. It's going to help you block shots. It's going to help you in the passing lanes. Allen Iverson was another example, probably 5'11", crazy wingspan. So when you compound all those things, you realize that making it as an undersized guard in the NBA is damn near impossible for a reason. This is a very delicate, extremely rare cocktail, because once you have this cocktail, now you need a chance. Because Kyle Lowry was looking for his chance in Memphis, didn't find it. Looking for his chance in Houston, didn't find it. Looking for his chance in Toronto, almost didn't find it. Almost got traded. Who knows what Kyle Lowry's career would have turned into in New York? Maybe they would have mishandled him. Maybe he'd be out of the league. We don't know. Kalo was effective, but Kyle Lowry was no superstar. There's a reason he went for 1 first-round pick and not 4 first-round picks. Look at Fred VanVleet. Shoot. Right? Like, so much success in college, really good player, undrafted. What if he ended up in the wrong situation? What if he ended up in a situation that didn't identify his talent? He'd be bouncing around the G League. Maybe he'd be out of the league like Mike James. So it's a little disingenuous to say Mike James was out of the league. He's dominating Europe. He's one of the best players in Europe, but you get my point. It takes a lot to succeed at that size. So let's take a look at the Raptors' 4 candidates, right, over the last few years, and just take a look at which of these players actually has a realistic chance. The first one was Marquis Nowell last year, and I'm going to just say Marquis was probably the most skilled and the most dangerous shooter of the bunch that they have picked up. He is continuing to shoot and light up the G League right now. Still really difficult. You could probably say Malachi Flynn was also in this grouping. 6'1" guard, right? So that there's like 5 players that you've realistically taken a chance on in the last few years, just in the last 2 years, that fit this archetype. So we're going to say Malachi and Marquis Nowell are out because they're not with the program anymore. But it's worth noting that Malachi was a really good defender in college. Malachi was a really good shooter in college. Malachi was a decent athlete. He had okay length, not crazy metrics like 6'8" wingspan, but decent. We saw him put up crazy crazy stats in pro-ams and stuff. For whatever reason, Malachi just could not organize the offense well enough. But he was competent. He was okay. He had moments, he had flashes in his rookie season. Maybe it was confidence with Malachi. His defense didn't translate nearly as well. He didn't become that kind of pressure attack defender that we're seeing guys like Jamal Shead and Davion Mitchell do. So maybe that was the thing. He didn't have enough of a motor at the NBA level like a Peyton Pritchard, who is the best example of an undersized guard right now that I can think of, thriving. Peyton Pritchard, TJ McConnell. That's how much you must fight. So if Malachi Flynn is going to make it in the NBA, that's the recipe for success. Marquis Nowell, it's just a matter of physics, man. 5'6", it's just too small. Like I don't think we're going to see another 5'6" point guard in the NBA as long as the league continues to trend towards bigger players. What about Kennedy Chandler? Kennedy Chandler, among the Raptors' 3, sub 6'1" hopefuls between between Jamal Shead, Davion Mitchell, and Kennedy Chandler. Kennedy Chandler was by far the best player at the age of 17. By far. Davion was not super highly recruited, neither was Jamal Shead. So Kennedy Chandler was like the guy. He's bouncy. He's super bouncy. He is a super athlete vertically. He's fast. He's relatively fast. He can get into the paint. In a disorganized basketball setting, he might even look like the best player of the bunch. But the problem with Kennedy Chandler is he can't shoot from anywhere. Watch him with the Tennessee Volunteers, not a good free throw shooter. Watch him with Memphis, not a good free throw shooter. Not a good shooter, period. Not a good shooter from mid-range. Not a good shooter from anywhere. Not a three-point shooter. I think he shot 12% with the Memphis Grizzlies, if I'm not mistaken. So he spent year 1 with the Memphis Hustle, year 2 with the Long Island Nets, and now he's with the Toronto Raptors 905. Kennedy Chandler is, I just want to say, not to be too mean, I don't think Kennedy Chandler has a chance in hell of being an NBA player. I'll take DJ Carton 500 times out of the 500. But he's jacking up shots at the 905, probably, thinking that that's what's going to get him paid. No, sir. Averaging 26 points for the Raptors 905 is not going to get you in the NBA. That's the sad thing. If Kennedy Chandler was doing what he was doing right now, but he was 6'7", he would have an NBA job. Teams don't care if you are a 6'1" guard who can score 25 points. Those are a dime a dozen. They're all over Summer League. They're all over the G League. This is the most skilled position in the world because it is the most common height in the world. Among all the players who are draft eligible every single year, I guarantee you most of them are much closer to 5'11" than they are to 6'11". And that's why. It's not that rare and it's not that valuable because you're not going to have the ball at the next level. What do I care that you can score 25 points? I care that you can space the floor for my star. I care that you can apply pressure and be a part of a competent defense. I care that you can find my star in good places and not throw the ball at his feet. So that's really what matters here. And Kennedy Chandler is not showing me or anybody who's watching these games what he can do. So if the Raptors were hoping at some point for, oh my God, I hope this 5-star recruit pops for us, it has not looked good so far. The numbers will impress you. The eye test might. Sean Hamilton saying, yeah, you want Scoot. Scoot is not 6 feet tall, number one. Scoot is 6'2". That makes a difference for me. Okay. And he has super long arms. He does not fit this equation. Like, again, this is a matter of inches. If you're telling me Ja Morant 5'11", Ja Morant 6'2", yeah, it's a big difference. These inches, they matter tremendously. Okay. So a hard no for Kennedy Chandler unless he drastically becomes a better defender and miraculously, by some divine miracle, learns how to shoot, even though he hasn't shot well for the last 5 years. Cool. What about Davion Mitchell? Davion Mitchell, to those of you who don't know, shot 44% from three in his last season at Baylor. 44%. And he was a winner. That's how he shot up from a fringe second round pick the previous year. Had he come out in 2020, he would have been a fringe second round pick to a top 9 pick for a team that at the time was looking to desperately change their identity and their culture from the losing that they had been going through. That's the Sacramento Kings. They saw a winner in Davion Mitchell. They saw a guy who could change the culture of their defense. They also saw a guy who shot 44% from three and might be making some serious progress as a three-point shooter. Although it's worth noting the college season is not very long and small sample bias is real. You don't take a lot of threes, which he did not take a ton of threes. He took enough threes, and he took open threes. He took good threes, and he made a crazy number of them. Last year in Sacramento was a very similar issue for him, 36% from three. But here's the question. How many years of the last 5 years do you think Davion Mitchell shot above 70% from the free throw line? Google it and let me know. That's one problem. Davion doesn't shoot enough, doesn't take good enough shots, and doesn't shoot well enough for the defense to respect him. Problem number 2. We talk about effort on defense. No complaints there. Davion is a super competitor on defense. He fights hard. He tries to fight through screens. He tries to pick up his guy 94 feet. He has a relentless motor. It is goddamn, Kevin Garnett-esque, his intensity and his ferocity, and all of that stuff is going to endear him to his coaches. But if you're watching the games, the pressure defense is not super effective. Teams are able to screen him off, back cut him to death. They're able to exploit some of his on-ball obsessive tendencies and basically just score off the ball. So if he's guarding a Steph Curry, again, he's had some success against Steph Curry. So maybe it's just like that was the game where he was zeroed in and knew the scouting report. But the average player is going to have a considerable amount of success against Davion Mitchell. Some players, however, are going to struggle immensely against Davion Mitchell. And those are, in my opinion, the players who don't understand Davion Mitchell. Players like LaMelo Ball can have a really tough night because they're ball dominant, and they make themselves too predictable. They like to dance with the basketball. You don't want to dance with the basketball with a guy like Davion Mitchell. You want to move off the basketball and then back cut him to death. Mitsu saying W show with a super chat. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. RDM Anthony saying all we need is Igor Demint and we will be saved. You heard it here first. Well, we definitely didn't hear it here first. I promise you that. Anyways. Okay. So the one issue is the scoring. The second issue is the defense is highly overrated, although defense is not Davion's problem. If he could do the other stuff and he played defense like this, he would have an NBA job for the next 10 years. Table setting, organizing the offense, the floater range stuff. I don't think it's necessarily great. It's difficult to organize an offense that you cannot functionally take part in. It's difficult to organize an offense when you yourself as a scorer have no gravity. This was sometimes the issue that people brought up when I talked about Scotty Barnes potentially being the team's point guard in year 2. They were like, teams are playing aggressive drop against him. Teams are backing off 15 feet because he can't shoot. He can't shoot. He won't shoot. Can't be a point guard if you do that. Okay, well, congratulations. Now you have a 6-foot version of the same goddamn player. Right? Except Scotty's like 100 times better as a passer, playmaker, and he can at least get downhill. If Ben's if you're not going to shoot these and the defense is giving them to you and you don't know when to take them, when not to take them, this is tough. So some people are really just tired of me ripping Davion Mitchell, but it's unfortunate. I was hoping a little bit of tough love might get to him. And checking out our stories, okay. When I say that Davion Mitchell's NBA future is hanging by a thread, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Better guards than him are outside the NBA right now. Much better. Malachi Flynn, for all of his foibles as an NBA player, has a lot more, gravity and talent, natural talent. He just doesn't work as hard on the court. But working hard on the court when it's not very effective and your team is like bleeding minutes with you on the court, it's not going to be effective. Teams are not signing up for that. What about what about Jamal Shead? Jamal Shead has a lot of problems right now. He's undersized. He might be slightly even more undersized than Davion. He's certainly not as strong right now as Davion, but he's very strong. He's bursty, but some of that floater range stuff is not lethal yet. It's just not. He kind of throws it at the basket as opposed to in the basket. Is he a good table setter? Yes. But is he a great table setter right now? Is he great at organizing the offense, or is he a little bit turnover prone as well? I love Jamal Shead, but I have to be honest with what I've seen here. My friend who's a trainer down in Texas watched a lot of Jamal Shead last year. And when I was hyping him up, I was like really excited about Jamal. And in preseason, he was like, "Don't be surprised if he's out of the league in a couple of years when they draft somebody else." So I'm not ruling that out. I love Jamal Shead. I'm gonna say that again. I love Jamal Shead. This is not slander on Jamal Shead, but he needs to really pop as a shooter if he's going to keep his NBA role past 2 years. There's a lot of saving grace here. Number one, he is a really good pressure defender. He's a dog defensively. I like that. He tries really hard. He tries to get over screens. His off-ball awareness, while not perfect, is still, in my opinion, an improvement over Davion Mitchell. That's good. That's good for a rookie. That's not bad. He makes winning plays. He draws charges. He fights. I think that competitive spirit bleeds off onto his teammates. He's a leader, like a natural leader. Speaks up. I like that. He takes charge, like he takes the bull by the horns when he's on the court. He tries to speed up the offense. He's a really good transition player. We've seen games where he's had a quarter where he's looked like the best player on the court. That's a really good sign for a rookie, even a 22 to 23-year-old rookie, right? Miguel saying Jamal Shead hype died a slow death. And no, he don't need more minute. He hasn't outplayed Davion to this point. They've both been mixed bags, but if you don't see a lot more natural talent in him, well then maybe that's why your name's Miguel. I don't know. I don't know what a Miguel is. I hope I didn't just step into some hot water there. I have no idea. It just sounds like a not very serious name. Anyways, my point is that with Jamal Shead, there must be that jump shot, and he must be a better finisher at the paint. He's athletic. He can dunk. He's got some burst. He's got that quick first step. The minute he can shoot and teams have to run him off the line, he will have a much easier time getting into the paint with that first step. But it is always with Jamal Shead, it is always going to be his NBA career is hanging by a thread until he advances to like champion all-star level, like Fred VanVleet or something like that. It is always going to be hanging by a thread. And that is the reality, the unfortunate reality of being a 6-foot guard. I think somebody said it. I don't know if Fred VanVleet said it or somebody said it. He said, you got to be goddamn perfect as a basketball player. Or Jeff Teague said it. I don't remember who said it, but they said, you got to be goddamn perfect as a basketball player. If you're 6 feet tall, you can't sustain one injury. You can't have one lazy off season. It's always by a thread. I think Jamal Shead, unlike Kennedy Chandler and Davion Mitchell, has shown shooting promise because he shot above 80% from the free throw line. And I'm holding on to that. I'm holding on to the fact that he has been a relatively decent free throw shooter, even though he's never shot above 31% from three in college. And frankly, with his overall pedigree, if this guy could have shot in a draft this week, he probably would have been a first-round pick. Probably. He's one of those rare type of quarterback point guards who really could have been a first round pick had he been able to shoot. The non-shooting part makes it really difficult. Really difficult. He's gonna have to figure that floater range stuff out. He's gonna have to get even tighter with his handle. He's gonna have to cut down the turnovers. He's gonna have to continue getting stronger. He's pretty strong. He's got to get a lot stronger so he can take contact at the rim. If there is one player in this entire heap that I actually do believe can prosper as Toronto's next great undersized point guard, it is clearly Jamal Shead, and it is not close. He is the only one that stands a chance. What are his chances of being the next Kyle Lowry? 15%. That is my most generous and most realistic expectations of him. He has a 15% chance to be a really good rotation player in the NBA, and probably a 50% chance of being a third string point guard for a really long time, and a 35% chance of being out of the league. 15, 50, 35. Davion Mitchell, 1% chance of being that level of player, the top end player. 30% chance or 29% chance of being a third string point guard. 70% chance of being out of the league next year. That's how I would rank those two. That's where I am on them. Let's talk about Jabari Smith, a guy who is not 6 feet tall, a guy who is 6'10". Now, I was thinking about second draft guys ever since I brought up Scoot Henderson. Let me get some water here. One sec. I was thinking about second draft guys. And when we ran the trade machine a couple of days ago, it was really hard to make a trade. The second apron complicates everything. It's difficult to make deals in the NBA right now. You're not going to see a lot of trades. You're going to see fewer trades than ever. I'll almost guarantee it, because these second apron teams are hard to do business with. They don't have a lot of tradable salaries. You talk about like, oh, let's trade Jakob Poeltl to the Knicks and get a first round pick. A lot of issues here. Number one, most of the teams that are contenders don't have a lot of picks. They already gave them away. You look at a team like Milwaukee, sure, you'd love to help them out. They gave up all their picks for Damian Lillard, right? They gave up all their picks. Drew Holiday, they just lost their pick equity for a long time. Then you look at teams like OKC, and it's like, sure, you'd love to do a deal with them. What are you offering them? You can't offer them picks. They already have too many. So you have to offer them upgrades. How many upgrades do you have on OKC's talent right now? And what would they want to do with your talent? You know what I mean? Like, sure, give them Chris Boucher for a first round pick. That's not charity. Why do they have to give up a first round pick for a player they could literally find in the G League right now? They don't need to do that. They're not stupid. So it becomes harder and harder to make deals. And I just kept thinking, okay, second draft guys on a team that is starting to be good, that could use some immediate help, but the guy's not really working out, and they're not a second apron team. And then it hit me. The Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets have a lower current salary structure than the Toronto Raptors. They are miles away from the luxury tax, much less the first apron and second apron, so they can actually take more salary back in a deal should they choose to. They are one of those rare teams that actually has tradable contracts. Why do they have tradable contracts? Because they literally signed them to be tradable contracts. Guys like Dylan Brooks and guys like Jock Landale are tradable contracts by virtue of the fact that they're middle income contracts. Is that a fair way to say it? They're not the uber poors. They're not the DeLon Wrights and Gary Trents, the minimum salaries of the world. And they're also not the uber riches, the Bradley Beals and the Zach Levines. They're middle class contracts. Jock Landale makes $8 million. I think Jeff Green makes $7 million. We can take a look at all that, and we're going to run the trade machine. But you understand what I'm saying. This is an ideal trade candidate. So you start looking at their roster. They got Fred VanVleet. They got the holdovers. They got the guys who are not going to be there for very long. Fred VanVleet's struggling hard with the Rockets, and their fan base is losing their mind. I would argue the crash out over Fred VanVleet in Houston is vastly exceeding the crash out over Fred VanVleet in Toronto. So I hope that he enjoys it because he's earning every inch of it right now. But you look at their young players. Jalen Green has shown a lot of promise. Alperen Sengun has shown a lot of promise. They have committed very long-term money to both of those players, with Jalen Green taking a shorter-term deal on the upside bet of maybe a supermax contract in a few years. Then you've got Cam Whitmore. You've got Tari Eason. Tari Eason is very good. You've got Amen Thompson. You got Reed Shepherd. That's a lot of talent. And I believe they have some picks as well. So there's more talent coming down the line. There's one prospect who has not worked out in Houston as expected. And ironically, it's one of their highest picks. Well, they've had a lot of high picks. The men was a third pick. Reed was a third pick. Jalen was a second pick. So they've got a lot of high lottery type of guys because they've been so bad for so long. But they've hit on most of them. Amen looks great. Amen looks awesome. Amen might be the best athlete in the NBA. Definitely one of the best defenders. He looks great, and he can really fit. He can't shoot, but he's 6'7" and get to the rim anytime he wants. Maybe he doesn't need to shoot. Jalen Green's mixed bag. You know, a lot of people here talked about potentially trading for Jalen Green last year. He's not an archetype that they have on that team, and they still have a faith in his future. Reed Shepherd is not gettable, although he has struggled at times this year, but it's way too early for them to give up on Reed, and they clearly drafted him third on more than a 10-game sample size. They like him, and they should like him. He's going to be really good. Cam Whitmore has been a surprise after falling from the draft. He was originally slated to be a top 5 pick. He fell down to 20. They grabbed him like geniuses. I was not super high on Cam Whitmore at the draft, but man, at 20, geez, no brainer. He's worked out. So you got some of the defense, you got these veterans, you still got Dillon Brooks. Where does Jabari Smith fit into all of this? It feels like the odd man out. And he's going to be extension eligible soon. This summer, he will be extension eligible because he was part of the 2022 draft that produced Ochai Agbaji. He was the 3rd overall pick after being rumored to be the 1st overall pick to Orlando up until like the day before the draft. And then they flipped and they picked Paolo. And thank God for them that they didn't listen to me because I had Jabari as the number 1 pick in that draft. I had my board as Jabari, Chet, Paolo. That was my order. So I was wrong. Jabari is not going to be better than Paolo. And he is definitely not going to be better than Chet. But is he better than this? Is he better than the worst open shooter in the NBA? Because that's what he is right now. He is the worst open shooter in the NBA. This is a guy who shot 42% from 3 at Auburn. He was SEC Freshman of the Year. He's a really good player. He's athletic. He's fluid. He's positionally versatile. He has a 7'2" wingspan, 7'1", 7'2" wingspan. He's active defensively. He's versatile defensively. He's smart. He's a smart player. He's a pull-up threat. He's a catch-and-shoot threat. What's wrong with him? Why is he struggling? I decided to watch a couple of Rockets games, and honestly, I can't figure it out. Nothing wrong with his mechanics. He's still a really good free throw shooter. Just can't make a 3. Can't make a 3. I think he had a game this year where he went 4 for 5 from 3 or 5 for 6 from 3 or something like that. But for the most part, he has been god-awful. And open threes, that's supposed to be one of the most efficient shots in the NBA. The offense literally works to create the shot that he cannot make right now. So it's tough. But at some point, they are going to be in the same situation that the Bulls were in with Patrick Williams, except he's much better than Patrick Williams. And so, struggle or not, he's going to command an extension at some point north of $25 million because of his high lottery pick status. And if you go under that, his agent is going to fuss. His agent is going to fuss. They're going to point to all the metrics. They're going to say, oh, the upside, he's still 21, 22 years old, etc. And then they're going to seek restricted free agency, in which case you're going to lose him anyway. So if he's not fitting into your system, and you have so many players who are going to become expensive very soon who are coming up behind him, instead of signing that contract, dealing with the headache, why not extract value right now? Because if he continues to shoot like this, he's not helping you very much. He hasn't been the type of impact defender at the NBA level that they were hoping for. So after all these negative things that I've said about Jabari Smith Jr., why the hell should the Toronto Raptors trade for Jabari Smith Jr.? One, I'm going to say the same thing I said about Ochai when we traded for him. I really like him as a person, and that matters to me. High character guys who, thank you very much. I appreciate that, Joseph. I met Joseph at Penn Dance a couple of years ago. He was wearing a Scotty Barnes jersey, and that was very cool. Nice one saying, Rockets ain't trading us Jabari. LOL. Why don't you look at Jabari Smith's last 5 games? Why don't you look at Rockets content? You wish, I wish. You know, there was a, not to blast you or call you out, but I do want to address this. There was a comment on that RJ Barrett exposed why RJ Barrett is struggling video where somebody said, you people like to really tear down Raptors anytime they're struggling, et cetera, et cetera. And I commented, you didn't watch the video. You just reacted to the highlight, right? Like you have no capacity to even explore the idea. You just want to rip it. And luckily, this person showing a lot of growth actually responded, no, I didn't watch the video. I'm watching it now and it makes a lot of sense. And I really appreciated that. We have a lot of prejudice when it comes to basketball takes. We see something, we don't, it doesn't make sense. I don't think you understand what Jabari Smith is going through right now in Houston or how bad he's playing. And I've laid out for the last 10 minutes an argument for why the Houston Rockets want to trade him, because they are surprisingly good this year and they could use a player who can help them win more now and possibly some future pick equity. But your first reaction is, LOL, they're not trading. And I just think that you're wrong. I think you're wrong. You know, this is it. Sidepack saying, what's a feasible trade for both teams? We will explore that. We will explore that momentarily. But just seems too much of a core piece to Houston, bro. He is not. He is not a super core piece in Houston. Alperen Şengün, Amen Thompson, Reed Shepherd, I would argue, are ahead of him in the overall value. You could look at Tari Eason, who is drastically outperforming him right now, and you could say he might be the odd guy out here. See, it's interesting because the way that you reacted to this is exactly why this trade is even on the table. Because when you're a top 3 pick, especially one that a lot of people believed in, there is a lot of inherent like potential, untapped potential baked into Slitherman saying Jabari is definitely not a core piece. Tari Eason for sure. Jalen Green. Yeah, that's exactly it, man. Like you got to look at what your foundational pieces are. Look, he's a very valuable player archetype, but the player archetype hasn't worked out for 1 second of his NBA career. There's not 1 year of Jabari Smith Jr. where you can point to and say he's living up to his draft stock. That's 3 years in a row, and there isn't a notable progression. Let me prove it to you. Take a look at the numbers. This is a guy that you probably think is untouchable in Houston. I'm not saying it's going to be free. He's not coming for free. You're going to have to give up something of actual value for him. But I'm trying to say you're going to buy low. Okay. He averaged 12.8 points in his rookie season, 13.7 in his sophomore season, with a 6% jump in effective field goal percentage. And that's, I would say, relatively like a decent progression, although not the kind of jump that you were expecting given how much he struggled as a rookie. But again, shooting 36% from 3 is a nudge in the right direction. And I would argue Coming into this season, there was a lot of optimism that he could take the jump to maybe being a 17 or 18 point per game scorer. Unfortunately, despite playing starter minutes and starting every single game of his Rockets career so far, he's averaging fewer minutes than he did as a rookie. He is averaging his worst field goal percentage ever, his worst 3-point percentage ever, but his highest free throw percentage ever. He's averaging fewer rebounds than he did as a rookie, fewer assists than he did as a rookie, fewer blocks than he did as a rookie, fewer steals than he did as a rookie, fewer points, fewer turnovers. He's getting squeezed out. There are players that are playing behind him that are outperforming him, and it is obvious. If you want to look at the analytics on this, they are not lying. After being a negative 0.4 box plus minus, he was expecting to take a bump to positive 2. Right now, it's negative 2.3. And most of this is elevated by the fact not that he's been a great offensive player, is that he has been a competent defensive player that is holding water on that end. He would immediately come to Toronto and be one of their best defenders. However, he's taking more threes than ever. His 3-point attempt rate is going up. His free throw attempt rate is going up. His 2-point attempt rates are pretty much going down. But look at that block percentage from 3% to 2.3 to 1.6. That was the big selling point. He's the super versatile defender. He's going to block shots, 7'1" wingspan, and it's just going the wrong way. And I'm sorry, 3 years into your NBA career, there is an expiration date on potential, even for a 21, 22-year-old. But let me make a case for why you should buy low on him anyway. Okay. Let me remove that, and I'm going to open up the trade machine. First, let me make a case for why the Toronto Raptors should trade for Bari, as he is affectionately known by Mars and a lot of his fans. Jabari Smith Jr., in my opinion, is a big wing, sure. A versatile big, sure. But he's 6'10" with a 7'1" wingspan. And in my opinion, has a lot more in common, although not quite built like a big right now. He's still slight of frame. I think long term, his future is at the 4 and the 5. Problem is, right now, you're starting him at the 3-4, and it does complicate things a little bit, right? I mean, he's a 4 for them for the most part, but I think that it complicates things, especially if he's not going to be the level of rim protector that you were expecting him to become. The shooting is a huge thing because he stands in the corners a lot. He's popping up above the break a lot. He's not banging in the post. That's not really his game right now. So he doesn't really have the handle is not nearly fluid enough to break defenses down. So he's like a catch and shoot guy who can't catch and shoot right now. And I think it's a bit of a waste of his talents because I think he has much more in his game. I think he fits very well with Toronto because number one, it moves Scotty Barnes away from playing the 4, where I don't want him to play. Is he the type of shot blocker that Scotty is right now? No. If I compare his stats side to side, Scotty's been better, but I think he can be better. I think he could be a lot better because the player that I saw at Auburn was a really good shot blocker. The player I saw at Auburn could switch on to goddamn anybody. You know, he had issues, sure. Sometimes his finishing wasn't so great. Sometimes, you know, you wondered about his handle. Would he ever be able to break down a defense? All that stuff. You don't need to do all that. You know, he doesn't need to do everything for you. He just needs to be a serviceable shooter who can make smart reads, work in this offense. There's another team that clearly could use him, which is Sacramento. I think he would help tremendously there. Ironically, his dad played for Sacramento, so that's something. But barring that, I think the Raptors should trade for him because he fits with their core. He's on Scotty's timeline. He's the type of player who is selfless. He's not a selfish player. He's a really team first guy. And if he pops for you, you extend him at $25, $28 million, and he's a really good part of your core. And he probably possesses, even right now, just as much upside, if not more upside, than anyone you'd be expecting to get late in the lottery this year. Don't worry. I'm not suggesting trading our 2025 first round pick as we are the worst team in the league right now. I am, however, saying that our future picks are worth a hell of a lot more than they were 3 weeks ago before we started this season, and right now, it feels like we're in this, like, perfect situation where deals can happen, and this player is playing as bad as he's ever gonna play, and we as a team are as bad as we're ever gonna be. 2 and 10? How much worse do you think this is gonna get? 2 and 14? Maybe. So, okay, over this next little window, as you continue to pile on losses, your future picks continue to become really valuable, like really valuable. And I'm sorry to say, you're not getting Jabari Smith for Jakob Poeltl. You're not getting him for Bruce Brown. You're not getting him for scraps. You're asking them to trade a former top 3 pick who in some people's eyes probably still possesses some level of potential, largely because he is still 21, 22 years old. He is going to come a lot more expensive than a guy like Ochai Abaji, who was a bit of older rookie, a later pick. You know what I mean? So this is what I'm going to suggest. Let's open up the trade machine and let's get to it. Okay. So he's not going to come alone either because you don't have a salary that can really match him one for one. But it's worth noting that because of Houston's cap situation being so good, they can actually take back a little more salary. And they might be actually invested in taking back a little bit more salary. So Jock Landale has not played a ton of minutes for them. Plays about, I don't know, was it 10, 15 minutes every night? He hasn't been great. He's got 3 years left on his deal. That's a lot of money to be soaking up on Jock Landale, especially when he doesn't have a lot of value. Toronto, on their side, could probably use a big who can shoot some threes and actually play some serviceable center minutes. So you get those two, and that is a combined 18-ish million. Out goes Jakob Poeltl, a big, big upgrade on Jock Landale. And your 2026 top 10 protected first round pick. Not a popular move, but you are betting on your own upside with this one. You're protecting against downside, top 10 protected. So if you're really bad, it's going to be, it's going to be protected. It's not quite as stressful as a top 8 protection. Again, you can pretty much assure yourself a top 10 pick if you tank correctly. Top 3, top 4 protections are harder because you can tank for the bottom and still lose. But if you're like aggressively tanking and you end up with like the 8th best odds, you're going to keep your pick almost always. Like it's very rare to imagine that the team that's 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th are all going to jump you and you're going to lose that. I wouldn't mind a lottery protection, but nevertheless, you got to appetize it for them as well. So this deal makes sense because they get arguably the best player, not arguably, they do get the best player in the deal and they get a really good asset. Well, how are you guys feeling about this deal? Would you do it? Yes, no, maybe. Let me know. Okay. Not a fan of that. Let's try another one. So there's another version of this in which you take back. You don't give up Jakob Poeltl. The reason I wanted to trade Jakob Poeltl is because it helps you get worse. Right? Hard sell from Houston perspective, but definitely not impossible. Okay. Let's try something else. Okay. So let us trade. So, I mean, in any trade for Bari, unless you're doing it one for one, you're probably taking back. Okay, let's try this. Let's take back Jeff Green instead. He's an even more useless player, but he is an expiring contract. In this case, let's give. Sorry, I almost traded away RJ Barrett and had the internet have a collective meltdown. My bad. You know what? Bruce Brown, I would love to trade him to Houston so that he can wear his cowboy boots in Texas. You know, almost feels like every single time he shows up in a cowboy uniform, he's pretty much auditioning to go to Houston. But yeah, I don't really think they need him. Or maybe they do need him. Champion, NBA champion Bruce Brown has a good ring to it, you know? Ime Udoka. I mean, shit. Ime Udoka liked Fred VanVleet. Ime Udoka liked Dylan Brooks. Why wouldn't he like Bruce Brown? Here, you can take him. Cowboy boots, wear them there. Okay. And Chris Boucher. Does that make it better? Mm, okay, this is getting mega big and complicated. We're just taking like Jabari and 3 players. I wonder if this is going to work. Failed. Why did it fail? Oh, I got to cut 5 million from this. Ooh, I know who to cut. 5 million. It's because Bruce Brown makes so goddamn much, man. Okay. How we feel about trading? Okay, it wouldn't be popular, and I wouldn't want to do it, so I'm not going to do it. Damn it, it's not going to work either. Crap. Okay. He's playing well. All right. What about this? This could work, I think, unless there's going to be some stupid thing that's going to restrict Bruno Fernando from being traded, isn't there? Oh, cool. No restriction. Nice. Okay, that kind of works. Does it work? Does it work? I don't know. But you take Steven Adams, 1 year deal, Jabari Smith, 2 year deal, 3 years of Jock Landale, take 1 year Jeff Green, and you give them much, much better role players, right? You give them upgrades on all their role players, right? Bruce Brown is definitely an upgrade on Jeff Green right now. Ironically, they played together in Denver, both won championships. But if they like Jeff Green, they should like Bruce Brown. Jock Landale and Steven Adams, you kind of meld them together. Neither one of them is great. And you get Jakob Poeltl, who's probably, at least in theory, the type of defensive big that you could put next to cover for Alperen Sengun, although it's difficult because he's kind of a stretch big. But I mean, if you traded for Steven Adams, I could certainly see that you value Jakob's skill set and you get the Indiana pick. So I think this would be include Jay Sean Tate just to match salaries. Ha ha ha. Good one. So yeah, so that's the general framework of how I would look at it. I don't think I would include multiple first round picks. He has really been just that bad. But that's sort of where I would look at it, I don't know that they would want to trade Adams. They probably want the vet presence. Well, they're getting plenty of veteran presence, but much younger veterans in Bruce Brown and Jakob Poeltl. And ironically, Bruce Brown and Jakob Poeltl are exactly the type of players I feel that Ime Udoka would really like in Houston because they're adults and they're selfless and they play the right way and they would amplify his voice and deliver his message. And I just generally think that that would be a very positive thing for Houston. That's just me. And again, I'm reading what Rafael Stone has done with that team. I'm reading what they prioritize. Obviously, a stretch big like a Kelly Olynyk, where he playing right now, would be the type of player that they might want to prioritize. But I have a feeling the Raptors have much more of a attachment to Kelly Olynyk than Bruce Brown right now. So, we'll see. Would I be open to trading RJ Barrett? Yeah, I would. I would. Yeah, I would look at it. Mars makes Jabari sound like a bum. That's more recently. Mars is being a prisoner of the moment. Watch him show up in the chat. Was not pleased with what Mars did. It was not pleased with what Mars did today. I was very, very uncool. Anyways, I guess that's those are my thoughts for the night. I didn't want to stretch this out too long, but I guess that point guard debate, point guard conversation went very long. He was trolling so much. I don't think it's something worth trolling with. Rue told me to tell you not to trade RJ. Cool. I mean, again, like if you want to give them some, they wouldn't want RJ. They have Cam Whitmore. It's a very similar player archetype, you know. Aditya saying simply Jay-Sean and Jabari for Bruce plus first round pick works. I think they would rather keep Adams just because he's been a good vet for Reed. How high are they on Jay-Sean Tate though? He's a pretty young player. I don't know. Anyways, the framework is what makes sense to me. And Six Puzzle saying, Rob, we can't get Casey Wallace from OKC, right? No, you cannot. No, Kaysen's been great. Kaysen's been one of the best defenders in the NBA, and he is exactly the type of impact defender that they were hoping Jabari Smith would be. Two Tone saying, off topic, but do you find Cooper Flag and Scotty play alike a bit? Sure. Yes, they have a lot in common. Rest in peace. I wanted him or J-Dub. Well, you can trade 5 first-round picks for Cason Wallace, or you can trade 5 first-round picks and 4 swaps for J-Dub. J-Dub is going off right now. Isn't Jay-Sean Tate like 27 years old? Is he? Am I insane? Like, wait, what? Yo, am I losing my mind? He's 29? Wow, I thought he was 25, 26. Oh, it's because he was a 4-year college guy. Shit. Because he was drafted in 2020. He's already 29? Dude, what? I am shocked out of my mind. Okay, that suddenly completely opens up a brand new window of potential trades. Damn. That is shocking. I mean, if you had held a gun to my head and said, how old is Jay-Sean Tate? I would have guessed 26, 25, 26. That is shocking. Okay. 29 is crazy. I say this as someone who's older than the 29. Like 29 is so old. But in NBA terms, 29 is damn near the end of your career. So that's pretty crazy. Anyways, I would be interested to explore this largely because I think that Jabari fits really well with what the Raptors don't have. The Raptors don't have this player archetype anywhere on the roster. And instead of trying to find this player in the 2024 draft, which, will be difficult, but certainly possible, to try and find some version of this type of player. The more people talk about Cooper Flag defensively next to Scotty, the more I realize it's a really good idea to move Scotty Barnes away from the 4. Defensively, I think it would be a good idea to move him to the 3. And I think long term, Jabari helps you do that. I also think that it allows you to have a really interesting small ball unit of Scotty and Jabari at the 4-5. I don't know everything Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster think, but looking at who they valued in the past, again, I was looking back on my take when Ochai was traded here, and I just said, I love him. He's such a good person, right? I'm really rooting for his success, and that has never changed. Even though I soured on him a lot this offseason after watching him struggle last year, the fact that I root for Ochai has never changed, and it will never change. I'll root for that guy. Literally, if he goes to play on the moon, I'll root for him there. Jabari is that kind of guy too, though, right? Like Jabari Smith is just that type of like really good dude, that you have in your locker room, hard worker by all accounts, as evidenced by the fact that his free throw percentage is going up every single year. He's putting in time. He comes in shape every year. He's a true pro. He works hard, but it's just not working for him. And the Houston Rockets are surprisingly good this year. They could be potentially home court advantage team. And if they upgrade right now, they have a real chance. And that is not a huge market team. And they're not a super small market, but they're a team that's lost forever. So the idea right now with the young players that they already have to be able to make a deep playoff run, does Bruce Brown plus Jakob Poeltl plus a first round pick entice them? Not throwing not throwing scraps away. These are players, Bruce Brown and Jakob Poeltl, who were easily worth at least a first round pick a couple of years ago. Are they worth a player who's struggling when you're the team adding a first round pick? Would the Raptors part with Jakob Poeltl? The secret benefit to a trade like this is it immediately makes you so much worse. And that's not shade on Jabari Smith. It's shade on whoever would play at the center spot in place of Jakob Poeltl. Jabari is not a better player than Jakob right now, right? So I'd rather see Tari Eason. So do you guys still think Scotty is the first option over RJ? Rue is so relentlessly like, bro, this ain't the day for this. Not again. Again? The last 2 weeks haven't like sobered your perspective on this? You're still stuck on this? Some next level, bro. It's not, I don't even think he's trolling. I think that's what he thinks. I think he really thinks RJ Barrett's the first option in the NBA. Cool, man. Good for you. It's been 1 day since. Why do people do this? I mean, I'm not going to crash out over this. I promise. This is like I need to understand. Why do people do this? Today I was on the panel. We were talking about Giannis's great game, right? What we wanted to do was talk about Giannis's great game. But what does the fucking discussion end up being? Is Giannis better than Jokic? People just derail the conversations into the dumbest areas. And now we have to respond to the dumbest members of our society all the time. You know what I mean? Like, this person's a Russian asset. Say it once. Now everyone has to talk about why they're not a Russian asset. And now we're 20 hours deep into a conversation, and all we've done is discuss why this person is or is not a Russian asset. It's the same thing. Nobody in the world, other than you and people who think like you, is debating between Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett. Nobody. RJ Barrett was a second draft guy who was tossed into a trade with the Toronto Raptors because the Knicks wanted to move off his contract. Scotty Barnes would literally cost the team 17 first round picks right now if they wanted the Raptors to trade him. There are gaps. There are huge gaps. And just because you can't see them, despite following this channel for 3 years, is shocking to me. Anyways, doesn't matter. People are going to see what they want to see. That's cool. Go watch the last video on RJ Barrett and getting exposed and why he's getting exposed, and you'll understand the dimensionality of it. You know how many people messaged me after that, including Coach Mo, saying like, man, watching RJ struggle the last few games has given me a renewed appreciation for what Scotty goes through. And it's true. Jeez. Yeah, this is just like the constant narrative, right? RJ's coming back from injury. Like, bro, people don't come back from injuries a month after they sustain them, you know? Liban Guled saying Jabari is horrible. No. Well, if he was great, you wouldn't be getting him for Jakob Pertl. Okay. So, anyways, I think it accomplishes a lot of things. Number one, it helps the Houston Rockets be competitive. Number two, it avoids to summarize this in totality, and yeah, this. Okay. It helps the Houston Rockets be better. It moves them off a contract that they're inevitably going to have to extend at a dollar they're not going to be pleased with. It makes the Raptors worse in the near term, which is what you're trying to do, right? Because you're 2-10 and the ceiling on this season is diminishing very quickly. And ultimately it pairs up Scotty with a player who has, in theory, a lot of good synergistic fit. And it does so at a time when that player pretty much cannot play worse than he currently is. I believe in Jabari Smith. Not quite as much as I believed in Dyson Daniels, but a lot. I believe in him a lot, and I believe that at some point his NBA career is going to turn around. He is still very young. He's 21 or 22 years old. I can't remember, but he is young. This is his 21-year season right now. And I believe that the Toronto Raptors can turn this guy's career around. I really do. That's not shade on Houston. Houston's fine. But I trust that Darko plus Jama plus, this selfless culture where he's going to have the easiest shots he's ever had, and he's not going to be playing with Fred VanVleet. I think he'll get easier shots here. Weirdly enough, I think he'll be really good. And yeah, I think he's a really good. I think he's a much better defender than he's shown so far. I think he's a much better shooter than he's shown so far. And I think that the Raptors have a historical precedent of valuing guys who possess all the tools that Jabari does. Anyways, I'm gonna catch y'all later. I have had a very, very long day. I have hated being online today. The panel was like one of the worst experiences. I had a headache after that. Reading the chat on that on that show today was absolutely disgusting. Like what people were saying and how people were saying it. I'm not trying to complain about it or whine about it, but it was so terrible that some people had nothing better to do with their lives than say that shit. And I had to sleep after. I was that emotionally exhausted. So you know what? When this shit becomes draining, it's not worth it. Okay. Do we have any replacement for Jakob if trade happens? Hmm? Do you need a replacement for a non-shooting big? I don't know. Spider X asks, why don't you have moderation on this channel in the panel? We have moderators. There's a few moderators here. And the panel has tons of moderators. Just moderators on the panel were not really doing their job. And I'm gonna have to talk to them about it because I hate censorship, but it's too much. It is too much. It is too much. It was ridiculous. And again, that's the thing, right? People say something, then you got to respond to it. Now it gets oxygen. It's unfortunate, right? And that's why I said, why are we consistently spending time reacting to the dumbest members of our society constantly? Because they say the crazy things, I guess, right? Why is Dwayne Wade, why were Dwayne Wade and Udonis Haslam reacting to me saying Chris Bosh is closer to Nick Claxton than Anthony Davis? Why? Because it was a crazy thing to say. I believe it, but it's damn crazy. If you believe what you believe about Chris Bosh, what I said was absolutely insane. They brought it up 4 days later. Someone impersonated you. Who impersonated me? That's what I would love to know. I haven't been on playback. Let me show y'all something. Just in case there's any doubt over this, I'm gonna show you. Hang on. So, playback. Your room's Hall of Takes. That is my only room on playback. I've only ever used this app once, and it was with Raft Takes, who's I don't want to say a Raptors content creator. I have only ever been on playback that one time. Only time in my life. Only time. You too soft for the panel. I bet you wouldn't say that to my face. I do bet that, but it must feel nice to type. It must feel nice to be a keyboard warrior calling me soft. You don't get over the death of your parents when you're 21 and still make something of your life if you're soft. You don't come through government housing the way I did if you're soft. You don't overcome the tragedies. I would, to be honest. Good luck to you. You know what? Nah. Apparently, somebody impersonating Pensar basketball went on playback and used some derogatory language that I'm not going to repeat. And I haven't been on playback since last season with Raft Takes. I've never been on playback with PC. And so it's sad that someone would do that because I don't hold a thought like that in my body. I've never said that word, but it's pathetic. It's really pathetic. What's playback, fam? So playback is an app. It's ironic actually. Just a few days ago, playback followed us on X. So I thought that was kind of strange, but maybe they followed us because something like that happened on their platform. Yeah, in the age of like where we're heading with this deep fakes and AI and stuff like this, the amount of stuff that I've said on air, if someone were to comb through the streams and get a good enough AI tool, you could probably make me say anything. This is a damn scary world, especially because people have literally never been stupider than they are right now. I think people are the dumbest they've ever been right now. People are less capable, probably than ever, to form their own opinions, and they form them at such a rapid pace with zero information and one source point. It's sad. Sparkling is saying you can't trust anything online anymore. Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So you're able to stream NBA games via League Pass and watch it with your friends, etc., and create like little watch parties. And I guess it's a partnership with the NBA or something. I have no idea. As I said, I've been on playback once. Seemed cool, really cool. Enjoyed it. I don't want, but I don't like watching games on my phone, and I have no idea if I can link playback on my TV. I'm not a technologically savvy person. You know what I mean? But digital identity theft and just in general, someone impersonating you is it's so horrifying. You know what I mean? Like, again, partially because of how I grew up, right? I've had like such a stress response to like certain panic situations, and I don't really understand why it is. I remember that there was a thing which happened a year ago, almost at this time, 8 months ago, 9 months ago, 10 months ago, where this very, very scummy company started like emailing us that you owe us like thousands and thousands of dollars because you illegally used this one picture on your website on Pendance, right? And yo, I was calling lawyers. I'm like freaking out. I'm like, oh, what's going on here? And the lawyer's like, you don't have to worry about this. Like, this is crazy. You know what I mean? But then you read online and they've completely populated the web with all this like misinformation about like, yeah, my lawyer told me to ignore it. And then I ended up in jail. And you're like, oh my God, is that true? And it's just their bots. Their bots populate the freaking thing. And I freaked out. Like, I totally freaked out. I, like, made a really big deal out of it. I was panicked. I didn't do anything for, like, 5 days but focus on this. And I was preparing for Pen Dance, so that was really, like, very valuable time that I lost. And my girlfriend's just like, "My God, like, what's the worst that's gonna happen?" And I'm just like, "Oh my God, you can take it to court, you'll get sued for everything." When your world was unpredictable as a child, And my world was very unpredictable as a child. We moved around a lot. There was a lot of abuse and a lot of stuff like that. You don't deal well with unpredictable situations like this. You just don't. You know what, Libby or Libby or whatever the fuck your name is? I don't like you. I've never liked you, not for 1 second. Every single time you comment, honestly, I don't like it. So you can get the fuck out. You're banned. There's no reason to be disrespectful to other people in this chat. None. My point being, a lot of us are very, very, you know, okay, I'm gonna probably clip the last end of this, but I just wanted to explain this and I guess get it off my chest. When you hear, like, I don't know, like there was this thing a couple of weeks ago. There was like not a couple of weeks ago, a couple months ago, my friend was telling me that they got an email from somebody saying, "I have images." They have a webcam, right? And we've all heard of this thing, probably conspiracy, that sometimes someone can hack your webcam and turn your webcam on when you're not looking. And I guess online pornography is a thing. And so this guy got an email saying, "I have like hundreds and hundreds of videos of you like doing da 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 to this or that. And do you know that I had access to your webcam for the last 6 months? La, 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 you should really change your passwords. If you don't pay $10,000, I'm going to release it to your entire friends list." And I have your entire friends list. And then he lists like five contacts of his. Do you realize how terrifying that is to receive that type of email? It's very terrifying. I'm sure of it. Like, if I receive that type of email, I'll be like, "Whoa, like, this is scary," right? Sparkling saying, "Oh, I got that email too." Damn. I wonder what y'all are doing. But, like, why? Why target people like this? Because it's very easy to try and terrify people online. There's no consequences online, it feels. It's the wild, wild west. And I mean, we've seen this before. We've seen this with the oceans. Look at what people have done to the oceans of this planet because there's really no regulation. You can fin sharks, you can toss them back in the water, you can pillage the entire ocean for a profit. You can send 1,000 emails per minute right now with the right software, and all of them just slight variations on the previous one, and you're just fishing. You're fishing. That's what it is. You're fishing. You're fishing for a reaction. You're fishing for a bite. You're fishing for one retiree who's so afraid that they illegally used a picture on a Facebook post and they're going to pay you $2,000 to make it go away before you threaten to sue them. You can threaten to sue anybody for anything, right? You can threaten to leak anything, whatever. Now you can impersonate people. You can go, you can do the AI thing, the deep fake thing, shit. You can find a video of someone saying a word that they never said, and it can look really real. How many times have you been bombarded with ads by Elon Musk or, one of these major influencers, and it's clearly AI? But what about when AI gets better? Nice to know that you made another account to come back. Scary times indeed. There's the anonymity of online, right? The reason that I took such an issue with this PC thing, and I'm gonna have to talk with PC, head about this, is because live streams are stupidly unpredictable. I just saw a video on X the other day. There's apparently this guy. I don't know if y'all have seen this video. There's apparently this guy that goes into various chat rooms, and there's apparently an app that you just get paired up with random people, and he scares people in the chat rooms, right? And there was this little girl who's probably 12, 11, or whatever, who's in one of these chat rooms, and he's wearing a ski mask. And He asks her if she has pneumonia or something like that, and she says, "Shut up, N-word," on camera, not realizing he's streaming. He takes off his mask, and she sees who it is, and she has this big freak out. That girl's life is ruined. Like, forever, forever, she will be known as that. She went viral, insanely viral, right? Look at what people do to Scotty Barnes, just cutting apart, like, the most innocuous moment to throw allegations. There's no consequence for this, though. You create an online account. Like, literally, there is a fake Raptors Digest every other day in this chat for some stupid reason. I have no idea if it's Raptors Digest themselves creating bots to, or if it is some person who's just obsessed with Raptors Digest who thinks that I'm gonna fall for it 3 times. I fell for it the first time, though. I did. It was the right logo, it was the right name. I'm like, "Oh, I know Ben. That must be Raptors Digest in the chat. Hello, Ben." And it's not. It's not Ben, you know? That's freaky to me. So the reason that I want to talk about this because in a live stream, there's no editing. I can't edit what I say. If an alarm goes off in my building right now, that alarm is now for you to see, for me to see. Maybe that's what makes live streams so fascinating. Maybe that's what makes Twitch streamers so fascinating because there's always that one minuscule percent chance that they're going to slip up and say something that's going to ruin their lives. But I am not a different person off air and on air. That's why I'm comfortable live streaming. I love live streaming. Do you know why I love live streaming? My girlfriend says she watches these sometimes and she laughs because she says, "You're the same person to me that you are on here." There's not one thing I would say on here that I wouldn't say off air. There's not one person. If sometimes you see me crashing out with people like in the chat, I would say that stuff to your face. There's no difference. My friend Margot, one of my oldest friends and one of my best friends from university, she has seen me run a dog walking company. She has seen me, you know, as a frat boy. She's seen me as a frat president. She's seen me as, a 21-year-old who's lost his mother. She's also seen me as a 31-year-old who's found himself. She's seen me as a hedge fund manager. She's seen me, or a hedge fund trader, not a manager. I was not a manager. As a hedge fund trader, she's seen me as a university student. She's seen me as a professional. She's seen me as a filmmaker. She's seen me in all these little walks of life. And a couple of summers ago, we shot a film at their house. And that was the first time she actually got to watch me direct on set. And she was seeing me work with all these random actors. And it was a little horror film called Masha's Not Coming Home. Point is, she tapped me on the shoulder after, and she said, "It's really remarkable to me that I've seen you in 100 different contexts, and you're just the same person." And I would like to venture to guess that I have so many people from my life who watch these live streams, people that we used to do like dog walking company in downtown Toronto prior to the pandemic. There are a few of those people who watch these channels, watch this channel. I have family members who watch this channel occasionally. They're not big fans, but because they're not Raptor fans, they're elsewhere in the world, but they watch this channel. I have friends of mine, that are from the film industry that watch this channel. I've seen Carlo Adamo, Daniel Wolf, Wolfson, and guys like that, like in this chat and following us on socials. So I'm seeing all these people, and I only have one thought in my mind: they don't know two versions of me. So the reason for that, and I'll tell you the reason for that I don't like to change my story with 3 different people and why I don't like to be different people on air, off air, etc., is because to me that is complicated. It's very complicated. It's too much to manage. So if I don't like Becca, I don't like Becca on air. I don't like Becca off air. My girlfriend's gonna hear I don't like Becca. My family's gonna hear I don't like Becca. Nobody, and Becca's gonna hear I don't like Becca because, oh, go to hell. Oh my God. Sorry. I have, like, fuck off, man. Sorry, I had to ban fake Raptors Digest. Aw, that's so nice of you, fake Ben. How why are there more of you? Why are there 2 of you? This is too easy. You know what? This is making me think that I need to take a page out of the PC book and create a membership for chat. Maybe I can gift free memberships to like really long-term members or something like that, but this is getting like to this point I'm at a point where I'm just like I'm fed up with it. And you know what? Imagine how sad your life is that you had to make 3 different accounts. Just imagine. You have to act like Ticket TV. First of all, there are not a lot of people who can act like Ticket TV and still exist on the internet. So shout outs to Ticket, but I'm not Ticket. I'm myself. You know, do it, broski. The real ones will pay. Yeah, maybe we create like I don't know a 99-cent membership or something like that, or I don't know, just to make this harder to do. It's really frustrating, but nevertheless, we had a super chat earlier, which I Liam saying Scotty's first year better than Demar's by far, by far. Scotty won Rookie of the Year in his first year. Demar was awful in his first year. Yeah, we'll consider adding more mods. I worry about adding moderators that I don't know very well, partially because I probably have trust issues, and partially because sometimes people get drunk with power and then they end up like banning somebody for saying something that I don't want people banned for. So yeah. Anyways, so what I was saying was the reason that you don't want to have the reason I don't want to do that is because I watched my mom do this a lot when I was younger. I watched her have like a version of events for her work friends, and then a version of events for me, and then a version of events for like her family or our family. And that was to me very distressing because I was like, how do you keep your story straight? How do you know what you told the work people? How do you remember that? And my mom, no disrespect, passed away, rest in peace, in heaven right now. But it was an early lesson for me to just learn that this shit is complicated. I'll tell you an example of this. So there was a guy who was a family friend of ours, and uh, he had started an insurance company, and he'd asked my mom to basically buy insurance from him for 6 months so that he can get the $1,000 bonus, right? And then after 6 months, he would compensate her for the $35 a month or $40 a month or whatever it was with his bonus, and she could just drop it. He did this with like hundreds of people, right? It's a nice scam. Nice scam. His company is incentivizing him to sign up people for his insurance company. And my mom, being a nice person, said, sure, where do I sign? So she did it because she felt like being a nice person. So after like 6, 7 months, she messages him and says, like, when can I quit? And he's like, oh, a lot of people just quit. Can you please just hold on to it for a year so that I don't get in trouble? And she's like, cool, I don't want to get him in trouble. He'll probably pay me back. He's a good guy. Then after a year and a half, she messages him again and says, why has it not been canceled yet? And he says, oh, like, I need you to hold on to it for 6 more months. You can cancel it 2 years. I'll pay you back everything. After 2 years, he still doesn't let her cancel, and they come over for dinner. And I know this thing is looming in the back of her head. She's paying $40 a month for doubling up life insurance. She already has insurance with another company. She knows she doesn't need this. And it's racking up fast. Y'all may not think $40 is a lot, but for a single mother, barely making ends meet, $40 a month was a lot of money. Okay. I don't give a shit. You want to troll us being poor? We were poor. Fine. So they're at dinner, and my mom spent all day making dinner for these people. And I'm like sitting there, like resenting the shit out of her. Cause I'm like, why? Why are you making dinner for these people? These people are assholes. Like they took advantage of us. And she's not saying nothing. The worst part about it was when they came over for dinner, she didn't say nothing. She didn't say anything to them. She didn't confront them. She didn't do anything. And as they were leaving, I just couldn't hold my tongue. I was like, so when are you going to pay my mom all the money back? It's like I had Tourette's, and I just like, I need that. And they just brushed it aside. The next day, my mom, I guess, watching my reaction, got some courage from it, And then she confronted them. And so he said, "Oh, sure, you can cancel it now. I'm sorry it took so long." And then he took a year to pay her back and he paid her back short. So that's 3 years of hell for helping one guy out. And I guarantee you that he didn't do this to somebody who could probably kick his ass. He did it to my mom because my mom was a really nice person. But she never told this to family members, friends. She never really voiced this. Only I knew this. And I guess the guy who signed the insurance knew this. And she was so nice to their face. But then when they leave, she's like, "Oh, I can't believe he didn't bring up the payment." So it's just like, damn, there's so many different stories. Why are you keeping so many different stories? Y'all notice that I wear like one cap? Yeah. It's not because I don't do laundry. It's because I literally only own one cap. I threw all the other ones out. Y'all notice I pretty much alternate between 4 different hoodies. It's a big story over everything, a small story over everything, and 2 versions of the same goddamn hoodie. I have 27 shirts. They're all black or dark brown, with the exception of one. They're just simple. My life is super simple because I refuse to complicate it with things that don't matter. So keeping up 4 different stories for 4 different people and 4 different platforms is exhausting to me. I need my brain for other things. That's it. Anyways, this is a 30-minute diatribe on why I absolutely sometimes cannot stand the internet. And I also will say this: getting punched in the face sometimes is a really good thing for you. Really good thing for you. Okay. I remember I was talking all this mess when I was younger and I got punched in the face, and it gave me a real chance to reflect and be like, did I go too far there? I did. So some people on the internet today are fishing the same way people fish in the oceans for sharks and for high value fish. Those people are fishing for reactions online. I would say don't do what I did today on PC. Don't give them fuel. But I will also say that there are some charges that unfortunately are too serious to just let linger. C Titty saying, as an obsessed Raptor fan, having something to sleep to, eat to, drive to, work to is the absolute best. Gotta love Rob. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Rob, it seems like you know, but you don't ignore them. That's fair. Toronto 6393. Rob is great. Goes on players' choice and lectures those dudes basketball. It's great to watch and entertaining as hell. Yeah. See, that doesn't work. Anyways, guys, I'll talk to y'all later. A lot of trolls in the chats tonight. I guess people have nothing better to do with their lives. But I guess that's the thing with trolls. If you respond to them, you get more of them. They're like cockroaches. Talk to you guys later. Bye. And wait a second. C Titty saying, not here live all the time, but I appreciate you. Thank you very much. And C Titty with another super chat. Wow, that's very generous of you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Andrew saying, I'm Kevin Durant. You know who I am. I actually know very, very well who you are, Katie. And you're not Katie. But yeah, Katie, one of my favorite players of all time. I know a lot of people close to Katie. You're definitely not Katie. All right. Talk to you later. Bye, guys.